In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can easily turn this $2 pack of candy holder into 6 adorable Easter ornaments. The idea is to make them look like Easter chocolates in an open box without the whole box. I don't know, does it make any sense? That includes making this fluffy Easter grass.
So fluffy.
I traced and cut a rectangle of 3 1/4 by 4 1/2 inches on a piece of cardstock paper to create the base. Using a yellow acrylic paint pen, I traced 12 rectangles on white felt. They will be the front and back of my 6 ornaments. I then cut inside of the lines using scissors. I like to pass over my work surface with a lint roller after cutting. I also go over each piece of felt, front and back.
Just beautiful.
Next, I'm going to create some hanging loops using some pastel baker's twine in green and blue. I measure and cut 3 pieces of 7.5 inches for each loop. I make a knot at one hand, tape it down on my work surface, and place an heavy object on top. I can now make a braid all the way down. When I almost reach the end, I make another knot. This is how it looks. I made 3 green and 3 blue for the 6 ornaments. To attach the hanging loops to the back side, I'm cutting tiny rectangles of white felt. I'm folding the braid in half and hot glue both ends inside of my piece of felt, just like a sandwich. I cut any excess to keep it as small as possible. I repeat the same process for each hanging loop, and this is how it should look. I can then glue the hanging loops to the base of my ornaments. Make sure it is centered. As you can see, the knots are just under the top of the rectangle, so they won't be visible. Repeat the process for each ornament. I traced and cut a slightly smaller rectangle than the one I used previously. I'm using a random box to fill my ornaments with, since they are flat and need to be sturdy to hold my chocolate bunnies. I trace my smaller rectangle on the box with a regular pen. I try to avoid any design from the box on my pieces to keep it plain. I then cut the rectangles with scissors. And voila! To blanket stitch my ornaments, I'm using some white embroidery floss. To measure the length, I am making 3 circles around my ornament, contouring the shape. I make 2 knots at one hand and place the floss inside of my needle. I start on the back side at the bottom left corner. I place the front side on top, place my needle at the exact same spot, and go through the front and then the back. I go under the loop to create my first stitch, and I keep going all around the ornament with my blanket stitch. At the hanging loop, I make sure to place my needle as close as I can to the braid on both sides. The embroidery floss should be in front of the hanging loop. When I'm done with the top portion, it is time to insert the piece of cardboard inside. I push it to the edges to make sure I have enough room to blanket stitch all around it. I double check that the front and back sides are perfectly aligned, since the cardboard gives some dimension to the ornament. When I reach the end, I come back to my first stitch to close it completely. I pass my needle under the embroidery floss and make a knot. To hide the floss inside, I place my needle between the front and back sides and move it under the cardboard. I let it come out at the back, pull on the embroidery floss, and cut the excess with scissors. The base for the ornament is now complete and looking good. The cardboard makes it solid and sturdy to hold the chocolate bunnies. The real fun can begin. I'm using 6 colors that reminds me of Easter to create some Easter grass for my bunnies. I cut some long straps of felt that I then cut across the width to make the tiniest pieces possible. Some straps were larger, some straps were shorter to give the grass a more organic look. After a while, you will end up with a little mountain of grass.
Oh my. So fluffy. Fluffy.
I only need half of a bunny for one ornament. Since the inside is completely empty, I'm going to fill it with styrofoam to be able to glue it to the base. I'm using styrofoam balls. The smallest is around 1 inch and the bigger one is around 1¼ of an inch. I'm cutting the balls in half with a kitchen knife. I will place the bigger one at the bottom and the smaller one on top of the head. I use hot glue to place them permanently. To level my styrofoam ball to the bunny, I glue 4 layers of white felt together. This will be thick enough to fill the gap. I cut it into a circle and hot glue it on top of the biggest ball. I cut a single layer of white felt for the smaller ball and glue it on top. Now that the inside is at the bunny's level, it will be so easy to just glue it to the base, just like this. To glue the Easter grass, I place the bunny on the ornament to visualize where I'll place the glue. I then remove it and put some glue where I know it will contour the shape of the bunny. I add the Easter grass to the glue with multiple layers to make sure I cover all the glue. The more, the better. Way more than enough. When the glue is dry, I remove all the excess to use it again. I place the bunny on the ornament once again to have a perfect vision of where I'm going. I add more glue and more grass to cover the bottom. I remove any excess. I find it easier to do so by lightly shaking the grass with your fingers.
Shake it off.
When the grass is done, all that is left to do is attach the bunny. I put a lot of hot glue on my felt circles and center the bunny on the ornament. I apply some pressure until the glue dries. It holds very well. How cute is this Easter ornament? It just reminds me of when I was little and I would sometimes receive a big box with an Easter chocolate inside with the crazy colorful eyes. I love that they add a beautiful variety in shape and size to my Easter tree. They really stand out and are such a cute addition.